What's up, everyone? I'm Jim Barry, and this is Miami Life, the show that takes on the topics that really matter here in South Florida. Off the top tonight, a condo crisis. Suddenly, there is a glut of units on the market, but here's the question. Who's going to buy? Insurance costs have zoomed, mortgage rates are still kind of high, and for many condo owners, the knockout blow is staggering assessments to cover new safety mandates. It all adds up to a perfect storm. Here's Joe Gorcho.
Right across the water from where I'm standing, last summer, the people living at Mariners Bay condos made the very difficult decision to eventually leave their homes instead of trying to pay over $100,000 in dues and assessments just to stay.
I would get calls from some of the unit owners who were just in tears.
Laura Galliano serves as the association's president. She said the board knew in 2022 they were in trouble.
Our insurance went up 800%, and that's insurmountable.
Along with other expenses.
But you don't know what's under the hood, and that's where, it can really get pricey.
Galliano points to a crack above her balcony and other building issues. Some of the many reasons she says the association chose to sell to a developer last summer, a deal she says that's near the finish line.
Deferred maintenance projects. And for the 40-year, upwards of $100,000 each.
For building upkeep that is required to meet state laws designed to keep condos safer following the Champlain Tower South collapse in 2021. Older condos, like the ones at Mariners Bay, have recently flooded the real estate market.
I've never seen this before. There's close to 18,000 of them on the market right now in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County.
Craig Stanicki, ISG World's CEO, points to research from his firm. Condos available that are 30 years or older are plummeting in value, down 19% from last year.
No buyer wants to take the risk of walking into a black hole in space. That's what a special assessment seems like at the moment, and the mortgage lenders feel exactly the same way.
It's why Mariners Bay's land development attorney advises all associations to consider a condo building buyout.
It's going to depend on each building. What kind of condition are they in? Have they done upkeep over the years? What is it going to cost to fund reserves?
And the cost proved too high at Mariners Bay. When the deal closes, all owners will move out of their waterfront homes for good.
I've seen dolphins play, and that's probably something I'll never have again in my life.
Now, some state lawmakers did ask for a special session this year to begin tackling the condo real estate crisis. However, as we heard on Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede on Sunday, local lawmakers agree with the state Senate Majority Leader to wait until the regular legislative session to begin exploring potential solutions. Joe Gorcho, CBS News, Miami.
Joe, thank you. All right, a lot of giddy Florida delegates are in Chicago as we speak for this week's Democratic National Convention. Vice President Kamala Harris will officially accept the party's nomination for president. Harris, of course, stepping in to replace Joe Biden at the top of the ticket. And that's pumped new life into Democratic hopes of holding on to the White House. But could one key voting bloc make the difference? Harris's Republican rival, former President Donald Trump, has been vying for a greater share of the black vote. And there has been talk that more black men might be less inclined to vote Democratic in this election. So has that dynamic changed? Was it ever true to begin with? And just how engaged are young black men in today's political process? Seems like a ready-made topic for today's 2040-60, where three generations take on one talking point. Joining us today here in the studio is Derek Jones. He is here repping the younger voices. He works in politics. Jefferson Noel is the founder of Barbershop Speaks, a very innovative show where you hear, I'm certain, hear a lot of opinions. So right. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say and what they're telling you. And speaking for the OGs is Eric Knowles, chairman of the Miami-Dade Chamber of Commerce. Hope you don't mind me saying that.
I'm good with it. Yeah.
Okay. So the latest CBS News poll, gentlemen, says that Kamala Harris right now is polling at around 81% of the black vote. Donald Trump about 19%. But Trump's number, it should be noted, much higher than it was in 2020. So, Derek, let me start with you. I've got a brother-in-law who drives Uber from time to time, and he says that when the young brothers hop in the back seat, a lot of them, to his surprise, say they are voting for Donald Trump. Do you hear that in your generation, and if so, why?
I do hear that a lot, and first of all, thank you for having us here today. A reason why I hear that a lot is because Donald Trump has started appealing to the younger black generation. Looking around, let's take an example. He started selling shoes. And what do a lot of young black men like? They like shoes. And he's also appealing to what I like to say, our rap culture. Donald Trump this year has gotten 34 felonies, started dropping shoes. Now he's running for president. And if you look at the black community, and if you look at the rap culture, I got a felony, I got on these brand new shoes, so it's appealing to our senses.
And that's a sad commentary, Jim. That is what we have used our power to say that's who we are. Mm-hmm. Shoes, rapping, and this gentleman who basically has decimated the American spirit. That's the way I feel about it.
Yeah. So when you see that young black men, though, or some of them are leaning that way, and Jeff, you probably hear this in your show, does that speak to a disconnect between the older and the younger generation?
Well, I would say I don't necessarily see a lot of men in my generation navigating toward Trump because of shoes. The people who I do know that is going for Donald Trump is mostly because they agree with his policies. I don't really see a lot of people shifting because of the felonies, at least in my generation. I would argue that there is a lot of attention on this election right now because Vice President Harris has become a cultural icon in many ways, and so she's inescapable on social media where a lot of people live right now. So people are speaking about politics a lot in our generation.
Eric, do you think that dynamic has changed since Kamala Harris is in the race replacing Joe Biden?
Oh, absolutely. We all saw the debate. We saw what was happening, so she brings a new breath of fresh air. She brings a voice for the voiceless. She's talking about the issues where Donald Trump is not talking about issues. He's talking about you're uglier than me, or you're uglier than. I mean, and again, when you talk about the young culture, you know, they get hooked on that stuff versus the realities and the things that we should be concerned about. That's right. Like, how are we going to pay our rent? How are we going to pay the light bill? My light bill went up tremendously this summer. So those things are things that we should be concerned about, not because Donald Trump is cool in their respect. And that's what I see. They're thinking he's cool because he's not going through the norms.
He's untraditional in every sense of the word. What about the sense that maybe some black men, Derek, are just chauvinistic and won't vote for a black woman?
That is the case, but I haven't heard that too much as of lately. My good sir, Mr. Eric Knowles, just said, we're leaning toward what's cool. And we see, and not we as in I, but my generation, majority of them see Donald Trump as that figure in the pop culture now.
Going against the grain.
Going against the grain.
What are you hearing in the barbershop speaks conversation?
Yeah, people are speaking to exactly what Eric just mentioned about they care about the kitchen table topics of things when it comes to prices, when it comes to housing, when it comes to small businesses, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs in our community and they want to know what our politicians doing to enhance their business to help them out.
You know, we talk about social media, Jim, and just the other day this man was on, he said he was, I forget whether he was in wherever he was, and he had on a Kamala Harris t-shirt, and people were looking at him, and one person said, well, why? And his response was, do you want the future to say that young women cannot be the president and that young black men, it's okay to be a thug, it's okay to have 34 felonies and then become the president? We weren't taught that way. Right. We were taught, you know, keep your nose clean, stay on the grind, do the right thing, and then you'll rise up. This is saying, hell, I can go on and just, you know, do whatever.
So maybe this issue speaks to the larger issue, maybe of there being perhaps a disconnect between generations amongst black men, younger to older generations. And I know there's an event coming up, Eric, that will kind of seek to address that. Tell me about it.
Yeah, Black Men Wins on August 25th, Sunday at Ives State Parks. We're coming together, all generations. It's about, hey, I'm in my 60s, Derek's in his 20s. It's about us working together. How do I see things? How do you see things? It may not always be the same, but how do we come together? Because we're leaving, my generation is leaving the future to his generation. And we have to make sure we help them guide, because it's not that easy to make those transitions,
Jeff,
even though they think.
You're kind of in the middle here. Do you think that the young generation thinks the OGs are out of touch?
They do think that. They do think that.
Why?
In some aspects, they're true because, I mean, people are typically going to do what they always have done. And so young people, they live in a generation where things aren't changing rapidly for them and they can adapt.
Microwave.
The microwave generation, while older people, not Eric, of course, but older people don't adapt as easily, and so they believe that they're out of touch.
But some things should be traditional, shouldn't they, in the way we view things? And isn't that a drawback within the black community, that as soon as the generation changes, the values change?
Correct. Some things should be traditional, but my generation, we've seen that tradition has not always worked for us. And now we live in a generation where, like these gentlemen beside me said, that everything is rapidly changing. And one of those biggest things is social media. I told somebody that, listen, I could be whoever I want, wherever I want, whenever I want.
But that's kind of fake sometimes.
It is fake, but that's our reality.
And I do think that young people have to be careful with wanting things to change too rapidly. There's a quote that I like: when people see a fence, they think it's there to restrict people, but you have to be very careful when you remove a fence, because you have to ask yourself, why is it there in the first place? And so young people have to be very prudent when they are advocating for changes, because they have to know exactly why were those changes there in the first place, and what are the unintended consequences if things change.
So Eric, last
Another
word
thing,
here.
it said, you know, you tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening a lot. Even when you talk about social media.
Sure.
As I said, everything there isn't true.
So very quickly, you've heard what these gentlemen have said about the disconnect and how they receive information. So given that, how do you reach them and give them what you think they need to have to carry it forward?
Well, that's why we're here today, and that's why we're meeting on the 25th, so that we can come together and have conversations and not have this distance between us.
All righty. Well, I'm glad we had this conversation. I think we have more conversations like this. Maybe there won't be a divide and a disconnect, but maybe a connection instead. All right, Derek,
Yes,
Jeff, Eric, thank you so very much. Appreciate
Thank
you
you,
all.
Jeff.
And again, the event coming up is Black Men Win Tailgate. It is at Ives Estate Park, 19901 Northeast 16th Avenue, Sunday, August 25th from 1 to 6 p.m. Gentlemen, am I invited?
Absolutely.
Okay, unanimity. Glad to hear that. All right, still ahead on Miami Life. Here's what's coming ahead. Whether you're a dog or a cat person, you know we love our fur babies. But is it possible we love them too much? We'll examine our pet obsession. And you'll meet the man behind the Stash and Grab online game that's spreading joy and kindness across our community. We're coming right back. Welcome back to Miami Life. This week's person of interest is someone that just about everyone would want to meet, because he is literally leaving a trail of money in South Florida. You see, he goes on social media leaving clues about where you can find his stash and grab. And as he tells my colleague Keith Jones, it's his way of trying to make a difference.
Missed it by 60 seconds.
I know, yeah. 60 seconds. My building's elevator from like the 14th floor. I hate it. Yeah. Next time.
It's mid-morning on a Thursday in downtown Fort Lauderdale, and Julia was on an impromptu scavenger hunt of sorts. Her elevation impeded her chance at winning. This is a stash and grab game this guy thought up. David Paulo says it's a movement of giving.
Honestly, it's just who I am. It's my character. I've always been a giver. I love to help as much as I can, and I'm not a selfish guy.
David, or Leather, as he's known on social media, is a local photographer and graphic designer who creates logos, cover art, flyers. Even rapper Nipsey Hussle employed his creativity. On a random day, David decided to hide some of his Broward County graphic art merch as a giveaway. Posted it on social media, and boom.
Feedback was amazing. Everybody was getting involved. The likes were going crazy.
David gained a huge following on social media and has over 100,000 followers collectively, and he saw an opportunity to really help his community with cold, hard cash. And the appreciation is apparent.
What's up, Mo? Yo, put me on the grill, Mo. 319 in this bill. I don't got that stash.
This is all out of my own pocket. I might have a donation here and there sometimes. Usually when I get a donation, I'll add to the pot. So let's just say somebody sends me $50. You know, I add the $50 into the stash and, you know, keep the train going, but I always come out of my own pocket.
He hides the cash, gives very clear clues to make someone's day. You have to look high Maybe you have to look low. Sometimes you might have to work for it, but the outcome is always the same. So at this photography studio in Oakland Park, David, his little brother, and a friend planned their next stash and grab. This particular morning, they picked downtown Fort Lauderdale.
I'm out here at Esplanade Park, Fort Lauderdale, one of my favorite parks in the city.
Brandon records the video to upload it, and David gives obvious signs where he is and shows exactly where the cash is stashed.
God bless you all. Good luck to the winner.
Then they wait. Cars start pulling up, possible stash and grabbers move about. This woman in the gray shirt is onto something. Her eyes dart around as she checks her phone and Leather's post to recognize the spot. She figures it out, but so does another woman. She's too late. Leather likes to greet his winners, have a quick chat, and then sends them on their way.
I'm not hurting, but anything helps. You know, you just never know. Like, so anything helps. So I appreciate this. $40.
$40 you didn't have.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. So it's my gas money for the week.
This day, Leather is filling someone's gas tank. Other days, the impact is clearly greater.
God bless. God bless you.
This is gonna help my daughter.
You're my winner. God bless. I'll give you a hug. God bless, for sure.
It's a simple idea, uplifting others, and David's heart is full.
I like to see my community smile, like I said, and I'm feeling good right now.
Wow. Thanks to Keith Jones for that story. Very impressive. Still to come, pet obsession. People in the 305 love their pets, but has our puppy love gone a bit overboard? Miami Life is back in a moment. Well, it's no secret that many of us treat our dogs and cats like our kids. But are there downsides to loving pets like their children? CBS News Miami's Morgan Reiner explains how loving our furry friends has changed through the decades.
How much do you love your dog?
We totally dote on them. We give them everything they want, they need. They go on vacation.
My dogs are with me 24/7. Yeah, my dogs are my kids.
They have acupuncture. They have cold laser for the older dog.
There's no such thing as loving your dog too much. And no, that's not just my opinion or even Athena's if she could speak. Experts agree.
It's good to always have a pet around the house.
But dogs sure weren't always as spoiled as they are today.
They shot a little bit of the distal portion of the femur here.
Dr. Jimenez has been a practicing veterinarian for 40 years and has seen the changes in his personal life and at work.
I don't remember having my parents or my mother specifically letting me have a dog inside of the house.
When I was a kid, I had a dog, and a lot of people used to leave the dogs outside the house.
We grew up, we had 2 Irish setters, big dogs, and they just roamed around our yard.
The New York Times reports that up until the 1970s, the majority of cats and dogs lived outside, either in backyards or roaming around the neighborhood.
Part of it is also COVID related, but one study conducted in 2022 shows how nearly half of all dogs and a third of all cats have separation anxiety. But Dr. Jimenez said that's a side effect of love and shouldn't be a deterrent.
The solution is spend time with them, just kind of work out the emotional part.
Other issues the New York Times article brought up: overbreeding certain dogs that have health issues like French bulldogs, or the majority of pets being either underweight or overweight. With the expense of taking care of a pet rising, many people are bringing their dogs to animal shelters, leading to higher rates of euthanasia.
The perfect dog is your dog. That's the perfect dog. The dog that you adopt, the dog that you rescued.
In Miami, Morgan Reiner, CBS News, Miami.
All right, stay right there. We'll be right back with more in a minute. Well, one of the true only in Florida events is done for another year. The annual Python Challenge is over. Every year, this snake hunting exercise aims to reduce the number of Burmese pythons chewing up the ecosystem in the Everglades. More than 800 people this year signed up to snatch the snakes and compete for $25,000 in cash prizes. Now, to some, this is a losing battle, but Mike Kirkland of South Florida Water Management does not think so.
Are we winning it right now? Perhaps not, but I'm optimistic about our future.
Since 2017, more than 18,000 pythons have been removed from the Everglades. Well, we love getting feedback from our Miami Life audience. Our story last week on residents of the West Grove fighting back against developers generated a lot of comments. One viewer was sad to see the identity of this historic community being erased, saying, quote, "I love my city, but it's not fair what we are doing to certain neighborhoods. These people help build the community. Let's help them." Another says, "It's greed. It's happening in Broward too. All the charm and history gone to a concrete jungle that is pretty much vacant." And one user summed up the situation by writing, "When rents outpace salaries, well, this is what happens." Keep sending us your comments and feedback to cbsmiami@cbs.com. Well, that's a wrap for this week's edition of Miami Life. Remember, you can catch us every Thursday for Miami Life at 6:30 on our streaming platforms and at 10 p.m. airing on TV 33. I'm Jim Barry. Thanks so much for checking us out.